Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special session and this special conversation about ethics and ethics case study. Ethics, as you know, is a subject which has become more and more important and also not easy to tackle. There are no standard textbooks और ethics में UPSC की expectation है कि you should have enough information, enough understanding to think like a civil servant. That is difficult to do because you are not yet civil servants, you wish to become civil servants. बहुत सारे एस्पेक्ट्स हैं केस स्टडीज के विच कैन ओनली बी अप्रिशिएटेड टू अ सर्टेन डेप्थ व्हेन यू हैव हैड एक्सपीरियंस इन द फील्ड. बहुत सारे लीगल एस्पेक्ट्स हैं जो लोग मिस कर देते हैं एंड यू अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम एन अथॉरिटेटिव सोर्स. केस स्टडी स्पेशली एथिक्स की केस स्टडीज एंड द प्रैक्टिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ दीज डिलेमास. In order to appreciate that, I have a special VIP guest here today. I have with me Shri Amit Kumar Singh, Joint Commissioner, a very senior officer with an impeccable reputation, and he is somebody who lectures other officers on ethics. तो अमित सर एक्चुअली लेक्चर करते हैं बाकी ऑफिसर्स को एथिक्स पे, तो ही इज अथॉरिटेटिव एंड ही नोज वेयर ऑल दीज आइडियाज कम फ्रॉम बिकॉज ही इज एट द सोर्स ऑफ many of these things and he is the perfect person. Thank you for coming, Amit sir. I look forward to having this conversation with you about ethics.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you for having me on here.
And like I mentioned, तो before we begin, sir, with our case studies, हमने दो case studies select करी हैं जो अमित सर ने खुद select करी हैं. He has nominated them because he is in touch with the UPSC and he has been scrutinizing the question paper over the past 3-4 years. तो आपने जो भी case studies nominate करी हैं, we'll be discussing those. हम कोशिश करेंगे कि हम bilingual रखें, some Hindi, some English, some situations, some cases, some terms will be in English because वो important है. हम कोशिश करेंगे be that you get an appreciation of what it is required, the level of depth that is required, but also कि paper में क्या लिखना है. The reality of the situation, that will bring you appreciation, that maturity, and what you have to write practically in the exam will cover both those things. This case study, in fact, both the case studies that Amit sir you have selected, they are from actual events. I'll read out the first one. The first one says, Sunil is a young civil servant who has a reputation for his competence, integrity, dedication, and relentless pursuit of difficult and onerous jobs. Considering his profile, he was picked up by his bosses to handle a very challenging and sensitive assignment. He was posted in a tribal-dominated district notorious for illegal sand mining. Excavating sand from river belts and transporting through trucks and selling them in the black market was rampant. This illegal sand mining mafia was operating with the support of local functionaries and tribal musclemen who in turn were bribing selected poor tribals and had kept the tribals under fear and intimidation. Sunil, being a sharp and energetic officer, immediately grasped the ground realities and the modus operandi followed by the mafia through their devious and dubious mechanisms. On making inquiries, he gathered that some of their own office employees are in hand in glove with them and have developed close unholy nexus. Sunil initiated stringent action against them and started conducting raids on their illegal operations of movement of drugs filled with sand. The mafia got rattled as not many officers in the past had taken some steps against the mafia. Some of the office employees who were allegedly close to the mafia informed them that the officer is determined to clear up the mafia's illegal sand mining operations in that district and may cause them irreparable damage. The mafia turned hostile and launched counteroffensives. The tribal musclemen and mafia started threatening him with dire consequences. His family, wife and old mother were stalked and were under virtual surveillance and thus causing mental torture, agony and stress to all of them. The matter assumed serious proportion when a muscleman came to his office and threatened him to stop raids, otherwise his fate will not be different from that of his predecessors. 10 years back, one officer was killed by the mafia. Identify the different options available to Sunil in attending to the situation, critically evaluate each of these options. Which of the following do you think would be most appropriate for Sunil to adopt and why? This is the case study that we are faced with. Illegal sand mining mafia. Tribals are involved. It is a tricky situation. The family's security and the officer's own security have been openly threatened. So there is clear and present danger. Amit sir, what are your 2 cents about it? How should we answer these questions? How should we think about this case study?
So, Ravi, before we delve into the case study, let me just emphasize on why this particular case study was selected. As you will also agree, this is a very, very realistic scenario. See, for a young civil servant to be posted at a place where there is a rot in the system is not functioning as it should, and illegal mafia have taken over the system is a very realistic situation, which you, God willing, you get through UPSC's exams, you will face very much in your first postings. When the government also is looking for some fresh blood to be infused into the situation, it is very often, you must have also seen that as young officers, we were posted to difficult situations. It is sort of a baptism by fire in bureaucracy. So this is a situation that you may very well be facing within a year or two. Adapt yourself to such situation to live that situation. That is why this particular case study was selected. Now coming to the case study, it is just saying that you are a young civil servant and your virtues, your characteristic has already been defined. You are a competent officer, you are have high integrity, you have dedication, and you relentlessly pursue your difficult career jobs. And that is why you have been handpicked by your seniors to be posted at this place. Now, you are faced with the dilemma where the basic issue involved here is that एक तरफ आपकी family है जो कि danger में है. Your young family, you are new to the civil services, you don't have still have the security that comes in with being a civil servant. You are not used to that. Even your family is not used to that. They are feeling as a normal Indian citizens when they are being threatened, they are being watched, they feel vulnerable. And you also feel vulnerable. So self-preservation, preservation of family versus doing your duties. That is the foremost ethical dilemma here. But that is not the only one. The other dilemma is with regard to the other stakeholders, that is the your own subordinates. Both who are handed here and those who want to work but are not able to work because of the very low morale. You can understand कि अगर इतना बुरा हाल है जितना बताया गया है, local functionaries, even the poor tribals are being forced to do it, bribe. Situation is rotten, and there you have been posted. एक तो stakeholders आप हो गए, आपकी family होगी. So two stakeholders, if we start by identifying the stakeholders, which is the first step you to do in any case study. The पहला stakeholder हो गया आप खुद, and you are representing the government. That's your government, and you as the civil servant are the first stakeholder. Second, your family and your relationship with your family, your personal relationship. That is the dilemma and the stakeholder involved. Next is the sand mafia, opposite side of the situation. They are one of the stakeholders, and in response to them, whether you respond to them with your quality of relentless pursuit of difficult tasks, or पीछे हट जाओगे, take a step back and preserve your own first, and then think about, inform your seniors, and then take some step. And the other stakeholders are the tribal people, the local population, who are also affected by the sand mafia. You can understand एक ऐसी जगह जहाँ पे माफिया इस हो रहा है, पर वहाँ का जनरल सोशल फैब्रिक किस फियर में रह रहा होगा. So they are the stakeholders.
The solution has to start by identifying stakeholders. I agree. आपने कोई stakeholders miss नहीं करा. Tribals हैं stakeholders, the officer himself, the government, sand mafia, the family, the subordinates. I think these are the stakeholders. If you come to the second part of the question, second part कहता है what are the options? One incident that has occurred is that अभी एक deliberate और clear threat दी गई है when somebody has come into in broad daylight has threatened, and it is a serious threat of life that has been administered. I think that itself calls for immediate legal action.
Before going to that, we have to work. We have identified all the stakeholders. We also have identified our relation and the dilemma involved with those particular stakeholders to some extent. Now the next is the immediate decisions to be taken. The first decision to be taken or the message to be sent out is to the person जिसने आपको आकर के who has threatened you, and also is most possibly the person who is threatening your family. So you will take immediate legal action against that person, against the for obstruction of government service. You will take immediate action also for threatening a government servant. That is a serious punishable offense. Now that being taken care of, the first steps you will take towards handling the situation is, what are the steps you will take? First step is obviously you step back. You take a step back. That is a hypothetical situation, because being an officer, as he is told that he is an officer of integrity and who does not forgo his pursuit so easily, ये एक हम पहला ऑप्शन मान सकते हैं for the sake of completeness that he will stop the actions.
हाँ, मतलब take cognizance. I think it is important कि ethical dilemma में ये mention करना चाहिए कि officer की duty है, but officer की खुद की family के तरफ भी ethical considerations हैं, और उनको देखते हुए one possible course of action is that he stops the stringent action and he devises a better plan, or he calls for more security, or he basically stops being hero in the situation and he retreats. Strategic retreat, maybe, starting with. So that is one option. The other option would be continue like before.
The other option, the second option will be to continue like before with, say, some added zeal also, that you continue with your operations as it is and you are not bothered with their threat. You take their threat as their frustration and you go ahead. And obviously, before doing that, you go to the district police administration and you ask for adequate security for your family. You will also talk to your family. You reassure them that their safety has been taken care of. You take all the steps for their safety. You don't obviously want their family or yourself to be any form of physical danger. And having taken care of all that, I'm sure as a civil servant, you will be given those required safety requirements. And then after that, you will go after the mafia as you were. That is the second option. Now writing, when you are writing your answer, I had Ravi, that these are the only two options mostly the students can think of. There is no other option as such. You can either you stop or you go ahead with your action.
If you want to add, maybe it is covered, but stop, continue, or double down on the stringent action.
So that is what I'm coming to. So you have to add in every of your UPSC ethics answer, you have to add a innovative approach also. You have to somehow think that one innovative yet practical solution I add to the highlight my answer, make it different from others. If you know कि bureaucracy कैसे काम करती है, so when we really want to get something done, is what we do is we create a specialized force for that. You know कि आपके officers ने आपके seniors ने hand pick किया है, so you will consult your seniors and then you will form a task force. Whatever it will do is that you will get to hand pick your officers because many of your officers are also hand in glove, so they must be happening the operations. So you will get to hand pick your officers, raise their morale and put them single-mindedly only on this problem so that you give a proper message and you are able to eradicate the problem from the root. So ये task force आप बनाएंगे, इस तरह का इन आंसर अगर आप लिखेंगे, that will add a more authenticity and make the जो examiner उसको पता चलेगा कि this person can think like a bureaucrat. So that I would like to add, that double down. And how will you double down? What will be the government machinery tool that you will use? You will use a task force.
Right.
That is something you can add.
In any case, going forward, if obviously जो outcome है जिसमें हमने we discussed about him not doing anything, वो realistic नहीं है, क्योंकि call of duty को honor करना ही पड़ेगा, answer करना ही पड़ेगा. That is the only actual answer जो हम लिख सकते हैं इसमें. तो इसमें ये जरूर लिखा जाए कि going ahead into the next phase of this operation, now that things have escalated to a certain point where threats have been issued in broad daylight, now secrecy is paramount. So there will have to be trusted ring of officers in the task force with impeccable track records and undoubtable integrity to carry on the operations. One thing which he should do, आपने बोला ही already, ethical consent होना चाहिए. Family को reassurance और counseling देनी जरूरी है. बता दे कि उनको actual take steps to protect the family and to make sure that they are comfortable. And then after that, I think legal action against this threatened person should be initiated.
And Ravi, to add, the most important stakeholder is the public at large. So what? Try to create a mass information so that people can come forward. Wherever there is illegal mining, you should create some kind of outline.
Whistleblowers.
Some boards to get a message to the people that something is being done from the government. This is how you can help, and you should reassure the people that their identity will be kept secret, as well as he will provide rewards to the informers. So there are rewards. There are SSF, Secret Service Funds and all. You may not have to write Secret Service Funds. If you know you can write, that is very good. Even not, you should know that there is a provision within government की informers को reward दिए जाते हैं. हमारे departments में we ourselves give rewards. So in provisions को हम highlight करेंगे, एक hotline बनाएंगे. Public के साथ he has to make a dialogue. He has to make certain real changes on the ground, and he has to engage the public. Because they have not identified what civil servant is in which department. So you can be more innovative. You can assume that you can go for public participation also. You can do hotline also. You can be innovative in your approach. So I think that will cover relationship to all the stakeholders.
Yes. And as fast as possible, I think he should double down on the stringent action after ensuring security of his family and himself. Because it is already mentioned that the mafia is rattled by all these stringent actions. now would be the time to make sure that they don't regroup. और एक अच्छी strategy जो ऐसे informants वाली आपने बोली, और whistleblowers की भी, और एक सबसे पहले जो the people around you who can't be trusted, उनको weed out करने का कोई mechanism चाहिए ASAP.
Yes.
तो of course the task force does that to an extent, but जितना हो सके वहाँ पर definitely that would be the first thing to control. You control the fire in your house first before you do anything else.
And Ravi, just to add to that, you also have to, there must always be officers or your subordinates who are on the fence. So you will also try to somehow raise the morale of your force, so that those who are on the fence come to the right side of the law, and those who are on the outside of the law, stringent action against them. But one of the ways in which those on the fence are advised to come to the right side of the law, that is also something that has to be done. ये तो हो गया अभी discussion. Now if we can quickly decide, tell the students that how to condense all this into 250 words. How to write all this into 250 words and what are the key terminology that you should use. तो पहला तो यही है कि you should start with every case study by identifying the stakeholders. आपने stakeholders identify कर देने हैं, and I would suggest वहीं पे stakeholder के साथ में क्या ethical relationship बन रहा है उसको भी आप identify कर दें. One of the stakeholders, you may call the stakeholders, the persons involved, you may come to a terminology, but one of the stakeholders says the family. And the issue involved is the issue of self-preservation, the issue of safety of one's own family. That is, the personal safety is one of the issues involved. Issue involved with the sand mafia, issue of upholding the law, issue of pursuit of integrity of your duty. That is the issue involved. So, this तरह से करके आपने introduction में you have to introduce all the stakeholders involved. And then one by one, as you tackle the stakeholders, your answer will flow. Tackle the stakeholder, the issue involved, and then you will say what are the options involved. First, hypothetically, you know, आप बोलेंगे कि ये option एक है कि वो stop कर देगा, but somehow in one line you have to also negate it. It will be against his conscience, it will be against his call of duty. Then this option should not be taken. You should, I would suggest, write it explicitly. And third, double down, as you said, double down approach, create a task force. You show your bureaucratic acumen that you also not only have the idea कि क्या करेंगे आप, but आपको ये भी पता है कि bureaucratic tools क्या क्या है जिनके थ्रू आप कर सकते हैं.
जो हम options इसे present करेंगे, obviously one of those options has to be that he doesn't do anything. वो बहुत important है, उसमें बहुत जरूरी है qualify करना why he should not take that, because एक बहुत important keyword आपने बोला crisis of conscience होगी उसको. Already it is mentioned that his nature is so like that, and if he doesn't do it, then obviously he will have a crisis of conscience. His conflict between his duty towards his job and his family may come into a clash that may disrupt his mental well-being. तो ये सब चीजें हम लिख सकते हैं इसमें.
ये बड़ा clear है कि that is a deontologist kind of a person. He follows his virtues very seriously, and he is rightly a proper civil servant, and he has been handpicked for that. He has a strong sense of duty towards what he has to do. And one of the tricks I would say is this option that he will not do should be dealt with to start with in the answer. Because as the examiner goes through the answer, you should end the answer on a high. Your best answer should be, in your option should be the last one. So that is one of the tricks that you should use. Whenever your answer will be, the negative aspect should be dealt with in the first few lines. And negative also in one line. And then you go ahead and your most forceful answer should be, your most innovative should be in the last.
Moving on to the second case study, because this one will also require some thinking और इसको unpack करना ज़रूरी है. ये जो case study है आपने pick करी है, I will read it out for everybody's benefit. It says a landslide occurred in the middle of the night on 20th July 2023 in a remote mountain hamlet, approximately 60 kilometers from Uttarkashi. The landslide was caused by torrential rains and has resulted in large-scale destruction of property and life. You, as district magistrate of that area, have rushed to the spot with a team of doctors, NGOs, media, and police, along with numerous support staff to oversee the rescue operations. A man came running to you with a request for urgent medical help for his pregnant wife who is in labor and is losing blood. You directed your medical team to examine his wife. They return and convey to you that this woman needs blood transfusion immediately. Upon inquiry, you came to know that a few blood collection bags and blood group test kits are available in the ambulance accompanying your team. Few people of your team have already volunteered to donate blood. Being a physician who has graduated from AIMS, you know that blood for transfusion needs to be procured only through a recognized blood bank. Your team members are divided on this issue. Some favor transfusion while others oppose it. The doctors in the team are ready to facilitate the delivery provided they are not penalized for transfusion. Now you are in a dilemma. Your professional training emphasizes on prioritizing service to humanity and saving lives of individuals. What are the ethical issues involved in this case? Evaluate the options available to you, being district magistrate of that area. Amit sir, your thoughts, how would you deal with it? How would you answer it? What is exactly the ethical case study here? The ethical dilemmas here?
So Ravi, as we started on the first case study, this is also a very realistic situation. In fact, such landslides did occur in the recent past in the month of July 23 itself, I believe. So this is also a very realistic situation in which one of the aspirants may fight themselves. And this is the reason, again, this case study was picked up. Now, as we have the hindsight of solving one of the case studies, we will try to apply the same model. हम पहले इसमें स्टेक होल्डर्स आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे, स्टेक होल्डर आइडेंटिफाई करके उनके साथ में क्या एथिकल रिलेशनशिप है हमारा, क्या हम कौन कौन डिसीजन मेकर्स है इस अप्रोच में, क्या हम अकेले डिसीजन मेकर हैं या और भी कोई इन्वॉल्व है. वी विल आइडेंटिफाई ईच ऑफ द केसेस सिनेरियोज, वी विल गार्निश आवर आंसर विद वन गुड इनोवेटिव रिस्पॉन्स. ये अपना फ्रेमवर्क रहेगा जिसमें आप चले. सो वी शुड क्विकली गो थ्रू एंड आइडेंटिफाई द स्टेक होल्डर्स. वो है द स्टेक होल्डर्स. फर्स्ट स्टेक होल्डर इज ऑलवेज government servant and through him the government itself as the district based. First stakeholder हमें मिल गया. Second stakeholder is the patient, the lady and her family. They are the second stakeholder. And I would say and most important stakeholder here. The third is your subordinates, the group of doctors who are in a fix. They are not coming to a unanimous decision. और वो doctors जो कह रहे हैं कि they will still follow your order, but they fear कि उनके against कोई और एक्शन ना लिया जाए, कोई penal एक्शन ना लिया जाए. They are the next stakeholder. And on a larger scale, the other affected area, the other affected people, they are also the bigger picture stakeholders. ये stakeholders हमने identify कर लिए. Now quickly go through and give our response to each of the stakeholders, and that will in itself flow all the options available to us. So what action you will take? First and foremost, आपने action क्या लेना है, आपका benchmark क्या है? If you can go back and read the last 2 lines of the case study, it is very clear ki what you have to aim for.
Now you are in a dilemma. Your professional training emphasizes on prioritizing service to humanity and saving lives of individuals. What are the ethical issues involved in the case? Evaluate the options available to you. Peak district magistrate.
So यहाँ पे कह रहा है, your professional training emphasizes on prioritizing
service to humanity and protecting lives.
So this is your benchmark. What you have to do is to go towards this goal. This is very clearly given what you have to do. Now the first ethical dilemma क्या है यहाँ पे? सबसे बड़ा first point of tension क्या है? Point of view of a medical professional as a specialist and you as a district magistrate, as a generalist administrator, जिसको कि सारे specialist के view reconcile कर. That is the first dilemma. Mind you, दोनों side professional codes of ethics. एक तरफ पे आप specialist के code of ethics है और दूसरी तरफ एक generalist administrator के code of ethics है जो कहते हैं कि ये has to prioritize saving of the life. तो ये दोनों को reconcile करना है और इसमें just to make sure that you also sort of empathize with the specialist. आप एक specialist की बात को समझ सकते हैं. ये कहा गया है you yourself are a AIMS doctor. Also you are here as a generalist administrator, but you are yourself a AIMS doctor. So you are sort of expected to empathize with the person who is disagreeing with you also. तो आपको पता है कि AIMS doctor को code of conduct का क्या value. Now what will be our response to these stakeholders? Response to these stakeholders will be the first one will be to the family. आपने जाकर के family को समझाना है, specialist doctors को ले जाना है. We have to make them understand even if there is 1% of risk. What is the risk involved? And lead the final decision on the family. The family should be guided on all the decisions by the doctors, by the specialists, by your team, by the team of specialists, and then ask them whether they are ready to go forward with the procedure, with the transmission. जब ये कंसेंट मिल जाएगी तभी जाकर के आप आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. This differentiation is to be very clear in the mind of these students. Being the DN, we are not the final authority जिसने decision लेना है transmission करना है. Personal consent is very important. That has to be highlighted in your answers. Second stakeholders, your subordinates. Your subordinates के लिए आप क्या करेंगे जब आप consent लेंगे family से? You will ask for a, जैसे कि medical practice में होता है कहीं भी आप hospitals में जाएं, you will take a written consent based on the information provided. ये आंसर में दे रखा है कि media is available there. That means कि communication is clear. You will quickly inform your subordinate, your superiors. उनको confidence में लेकर के आप subordinates को बताओगे, you have taken the superiors into confidence, you are taking the decision. You will face if any penal action is invoked and they will be safeguarded in every case. ये reassurance आप देंगे अपने doctors की टीम.
जो रीअश्योरेंस है उसकी जो लीगल प्रोटेक्शन है, जो एक्चुअल प्रैक्टिकल साइड है, तो एक साइड पे सिविल सर्विस कंडक्ट रूल्स है,
Yes.
और एक साइड पे आई थिंक द थिंग व्हिच विल कम टू द रेस्क्यू इज एनडीएमए, नेशनल डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट एक्ट. तो एज अ डिस्ट्रिक्ट मजिस्ट्रेट डेफिनेटली कुछ पावर्स डेलीगेट होती हैं ड्यूरिंग टाइम्स ऑफ डिजास्टर्स, उनको इन्वोक करके बचाया जा सकता है लीगली टेक्निकली.
Also, one thing that comes here is even as a specialist आप invoke कर सकते हैं उनकी Hippocratic oath. As an AIMS doctor, I'm sure you know, everybody knows कि एक Hippocratic oath होती है, which is above all, it is like a basic fundamental oath जो एक हर डॉक्टर लेता है कि they will take every action to save the law, save the life. और उसके सामने ये जो procedural aspect है, although it is also very important, there is a reason कि ये रखा गया है. हम bypass जो कर रहे हैं और क्या safeguards करके bypass करेंगे, that will come to in the next session. तो नेक्स्ट पार्ट, अभी हमने एथिकल डिलेमास क्या थे वो आइडेंटिफाई कर लिए, स्टेक होल्डर्स आइडेंटिफाई कर लिए. वी हैव आल्सो आइडेंटिफाइड द टू कोर्सेस ऑफ एक्शन. यू विल गो टेक द कंसेंट, बेस्ड ऑन द कंसेंट यू विल ईदर गो अहेड विद द ट्रांसफ्यूजन, या फिर आप ये कह सकते हैं फर्स्ट ऑप्शन में कि यू विल नॉट गो थ्रू द ट्रांसफ्यूजन एंड यू विल वेट फॉर द प्रॉपर ऑथेंटिकेटेड ब्लड टू कम. एंड एज दिस इज नॉट द एक्सपेक्टेड course of action to be taken by it, you will also quickly negate it. But however, as a life, two lives, in fact, two lives of pregnant women, two lives are at stake, this option is to be avoided until unless real dangers to life are there. Some kind of a qualification to this option is to be given.
And in fact, why he should not follow this particular one in the event that the family is concerned is, we should mention, I think, it is not enough to mention the option, it is very important to mention why it should not be followed. इसमें पूरा 50% I think marks का.
For the sake of completeness, we have to write this answer. We will have to teach some writing techniques to the kids. We may come up with, I have some, so that in very few words, because words are a constraint there, in very few words and 2 or 3 lines, or maybe even 1 line, you can negate why this approach is not to be taken. उसके बाद में you will go to the next approach, which is you will go ahead with the transmission by taking the seniors into confidence, by reassuring your subordinates, the team of doctors, that they will not be penalized invoking the legal provisions. यहाँ तक अपना आंसर हो गया. Now the last part, which is the innovative part. This is the answer which a template of this will be there in every good answer. Now you have to show that you also understand the procedure. You can be innovative, you can think on your feet. Now अगर आप ये समझे कि क्यों वो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट है कि ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूजन की ब्लड विल बी टेकन only from authorized sources. The very logical reason is because we need to make sure the blood is
contaminated.
Correct. Blood type, there is no contamination. There are number of safeguards taken. Not anybody can go and start donating blood. You should be free of any disease. You should not be taking even paracetamol for last at least a month. Then only if you have taken a paracetamol, you cannot go and donate blood. You are tested for certain diseases. When you donate blood, you are tested for certain diseases, HIV and all. So what you can innovate here is you go to the crux of the conduct, and then you give it, say you will go spread the word around among the volunteers. What the volunteers जो regularly blood donate करते हैं, you will pick out those जो कि recently test हुए, so that you will not nullify, then minimize the effect जो कि आ सकता था violation of that specific norm or procedure. That is something you can write as an innovativeness to your answer. And layer to your answer, it will show that you are also not just in a vague terms, but also able to come up with a very practical solution to address the problem at heart.
I think I don't know if it is advisable, but there may be one stakeholder that most people will miss, and we also may have missed. It is mentioned that the lady is pregnant. So there is not one life involved here. There are more than one involved with the lady. Some ethical considerations to the unborn child also, I think, exist. And when he takes the decision, he should bear that in mind.
So I covered that also, that there are 2 lives at stake here. Okay, 2 lives at stake here. Obviously, the unborn child also adds a layer of ethical dilemma to it. And that is one more the reason that you should go ahead with the transmission by taking the necessary precautionary steps.
So what protects you is NDMA, what you can invoke to counteract the consequences of the civil service conduct rule, informed consent, Hippocratic oath. These are all important keywords, I think, जिनको there have to be instituted. और जब हम ethical dilemmas की बात करें, we have to talk about the lives of the people at hand, because the person जिसने rescue की request करी है, that is not affected by the landslide directly. उसकी wife को that is a separate medical condition ongoing.
So just to sum up, हमने 2 केस स्टडीज करी, बहुत ही रियलिस्टिक करी बच्चों के लिए. जस्ट टू क्विकली सम अप, कोई भी केस स्टडी हो, यू फर्स्ट आइडेंटिफाई द स्टेक होल्डर्स. दिस इज अ बिगर टॉपिक ऑफ एथिकल फ्रेमवर्क डिसीजन मेकिंग which we'll try to cover it some other time when we have time. First hand, you identify the stakeholders, you identify the ethical relationship with the stakeholders, identify whether you are the only decision maker या जैसे institution में था there are other decision makers, and then the options that you have to take, जैसे जैसे आप अपना response देंगे stakeholders को, they will naturally flow out. And then आंसर का जो स्ट्रक्चर करना है, जो नेगेटिव एस्पेक्ट है जो कि नहीं करना है, वो सबसे पहले लिखना है आंसर में. क्विकली नेगेटेड क्वालिफाइड व्हाई इट शुड नॉट बी डन. गिव योर रन ऑफ द मिल आंसर जो कि चल रहा है वेटेज स्टेटस की ओर जो करा जाएगा. एंड देन ट्राई टू ऐड द इनोवेटिव सॉर्ट ऑफ से इनोवेटिव तड़का टू द आंसर विच शुड बी ऑलवेज देयर, विच विल शो योर अर्नेस्टनेस ऑल्सो, एंड ऑल्सो आपकी नॉलेज कि आप एक प्रैक्टिकल सोल्यूशन ऑन योर फीट दे सकते हैं. एज अ सिविल सर्वेंट यू विल हैव टू व्हाट यू विल बी एक्सपेक्टेड टू डू. इस तरह के फ्रेमवर्क में अगर चाहिए तो देन यू नीड 250 वर्ड्स ऑफ ब्यूटीफुल and an innovative answer to this ethical case study can be brought about.
Completely agreed. These are 2 case studies we discussed. और आपने बहुत अच्छे तरीके से ऑलरेडी टेक अवे पॉइंट्स समराइज कर दिए. हमने डिस्कशन करी, हमने स्टेक होल्डर्स एनालाइज करे, हमने एथिकल कंसिडरेशन डिस्कस करी, हमने कुछ और ज़्यादा तो नहीं बट कुछ इंटेलेक्चुअल कन्वर्सेशन भी करी. We had some important terminologies being used, crisis of conscience, Hippocratic oath, National Disaster Management Authority, etc. 2-3 बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें निकली जो ऑब्वियस नहीं थी. एक पहली वाली में आपने जब बताया कि जो ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूजन है, डोनर्स सिलेक्ट करे जा सकते हैं बेस्ड ऑन समबडी हु हैज बीन टेस्टेड बिफोर. इस टाइप की छोटी छोटी चीज़ें, इनसे बहुत फर्क पड़ जाता है. एंड इट वाज अ वेरी फ्रूटफुल डिस्कशन. आपने बहुत थरोली सारी चीज़ें अनपैक करी. यू वर एबल टू टेल अस नॉट ओनली द सिचुएशन बट हाउ द आंसर शुड बी रिटन. फॉर दैट आई एम थैंकफुल एंड आई एम श्योर दैट स्टूडेंट्स विल बेनिफिट फ्रॉम दिस. और अगर हो सकेगा we will have more of these conversations. In any case, I enjoy these conversations with you because they are very intellectually stimulating. Take me back being in those situations. I can always imagine myself in them. So thank you so much for coming and having this conversation. I wish you all the best and to the students as well. Thank you.
Thank you.